I was a recipient of an absolutely horrible deal. And, I always encourage people, don't let your first company be your best company.
My entire career across all 7 companies, I've watched the volumes of data that we have analyzed.
Wow, I don't know if I can get past this. Should I quit or keep going? Hello and welcome back to the Masters of Real Estate. Today, we are going to learn from a real master of real estate, Doug Newell. Doug, how's it going, buddy?
It's going very well, thank you.
It's so good to have you here. If you are a home builder or interested in learning about the home building industry, or if you're obsessed with data in real estate and want to use it in a much better way, Doug's insights today will help you uncover a lot of questions you've been thinking about. But before we get into it, Doug, how do you introduce yourself these days?
I explained that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm proud of that, although I think it may be a form of madness. But I have started 7 companies. I have successfully exited multiple companies, and they've all been around the same theme of finding value in very large quantities of data.
Wow. Finding value in very large quantities of data, and seems like you had a very successful career so far. If you've exited most of them, Doug, and you might have cashed out a little bit, what is the fire that keeps burning inside of you?
It's like eating popcorn or something. After you've done it, you'd think that the next time you'll do even better. And that idea of doing even better and surpassing yourself, you learn more about things. The first time I was an entrepreneur, the investors basically skinned me alive. And I learned different parts of an investment contract and what could help you and what can hurt you and things like that. So it's the constant learning.
I couldn't agree more. I started my first company when I was 17, and while I quote unquote exited, I was a recipient of an absolutely horrible deal. And, I always encourage people, don't let your first company be your best company. Because, most of
Besides that, if you only do it once, how do you know if you were successful? It wasn't just luck.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who just luck into a good deal and they invent something at the right time in the right place and make a bunch of money, but it was just luck. If you do it many times and you are successful most of them, then it's not luck.
I absolutely love it. I couldn't agree more. Entrepreneurship is almost like a personality, a life. And when people come to me asking for advice, I'm like, if you're saying you'll plan the perfect project plan for 2 years and then save the perfect amount of money and launch, you're not ready. Just don't do it at all, because you either do it now or you stop talking about doing it. There's nothing in between. So to your degree of successfully, starting 7 companies and being an entrepreneur, which is a form of madness, what spirit, animal, or bird do you feel best describes this operating philosophy of yours?
That's interesting. I often weave into stories trying to explain the passion for being an entrepreneur. I once worked for a very large corporation, and I compare being an entrepreneur to that. An entrepreneur is a wolf, okay? It never knows where the next meal is, but it knows that it's alive. It just feels the life force. Someone working in a big corporation, I worked in a bank once, and people were planning their retirement 30 years before they retired. And that life is more like a cow going out and grazing and then comes back into the barn every night and then goes out and grazes and so forth. In the end, we're all dead, but the wolf has felt the life much more than the cow who just goes out and grazes.
Wow. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I love the wolf mindset. Now, if you have to summarize this wolf mindset and where, it has led to you being today, and summarize it all using a single metric, what metric would you say summarizes your wolf mindset in your professional life so far?
Well, yeah, in my life, it's been it's an odd one that I latched onto. It is volumes of data that my entire career across all 7 companies, I've watched the volumes of data that we have analyzed to extract value grow and grow and grow. In the beginning, it was I built a database for Hertz Rent-A-Car, and we thought it was a huge amount of data. We stored the data on these big round reels of tape, and we had 6 million records, and each one of them had like 6 transactions on average. So that was in the beginning, and now we have 16,000 pieces of information about each of 115 million properties in the United States. And we measure things in terabytes and hundreds of terabytes and so forth. So I was fortunate, I guess. It was probably fortune as opposed to brilliance to latch on to this wave of data as data was driving more and more decisions in the world.
Wow. Wow. It seems like your career and your accomplishments and your metrics, the way you measure yourselves is anchored in some form of big data. Doug?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I just Googled big data in the background, and while the term was first used in the 1990s, most of the growth of that term came in the 2010s and beyond. But let's walk through your career, right? You seems like you graduated in the late 70s and have been working on data ever since. So when you look back at your past, what like
Well, I think it starts to become relevant when I was in graduate school. In graduate school, I, by luck again, went to a graduate school that focused on quantitative analysis. And they did that because they couldn't compete in other areas with some of the large schools around them. So I went to William and Mary for graduate school, and I turned out to be the most quantitative oriented of my classmates. And so when I left grad school, the first job I took was with Cadbury, the people who make candy bars and such. And my job was telling them how many candy bars to make based upon data analysis. And sort of a interesting side story, I had a breakthrough when I found ledgers of their data, paper ledgers, behind a stack of coconut in a warehouse. So now I had finally enough data that I could do my projections accurately and so forth. So I was at Cadbury. We built one of the first marketing databases there, and then I left and went to a company called Epsilon, where I spent many years and dealt with all sorts of Fortune 500 companies and learned much more about the technology of computers.
And when you look back at your career, Doug, what do you feel were the top 2 or 3 inflection points that led you to where you are today?
One of them was, again, on the entrepreneurial side. While I was at Epsilon, I convinced senior management to allow me, my group was the analytic group there, and we were analyzing data for all sorts of hundreds of different clients. I convinced senior management to allow me to make my group a profit center instead of a cost center. Now, this may seem arcane, but it's a big deal. Profit center, you decide how many people you hire because you have to deliver a profit within the corporation. And that sort of got me starting down the line that eventually led to me leaving the company and being the founder of another company, and then another and another and another and so forth. But the responsibility and the independence of a profit center as opposed to a cost center was something that I really liked. So that would be one turning point. And then starting my own company my first company, it was called Genalytics. That was way back in 1998 or so. And it was using, believe it or not, artificial intelligence in 1998. We, my team and I were over in Switzerland doing analysis for UBS Bank out of Basel, and we realized that the volumes of data were exceeding the abilities of our statistical tools. And we had been researching this thing, I think at that time it was just called machine learning. But we mocked up a little test, and in 2/3 of a second, it came out with a better answer than the answer that was in the textbook that we had gotten the example from. So that was a turning point too. It's like, I remember saying, okay, this AI stuff, I'm all in. I'm going to spend the rest of my career trying to advance this.
Wow. And it just took the world, you were doing that way back in 98. And yeah, 26, 27 years later, now AI has become a term that's obviously used everywhere.
Yes, it's true. It's a little frustrating, to be honest with you, in that everybody is claiming to have AI. I believe if I went out and bought some ice cream, somebody'd be claiming that it's enriched with AI or something like that. Most of the AI claims are a stretch. And we focus on a particular part of AI. There are two divisions in my mind. There's the AI dealing with words and the chat suite of products and things like that. We focus on predictions. So predicting how much a house might sell for, or predicting how long will it be on the market or whatever. All of these are more quantitative, whereas the chat is finding linkages in ideas between concrete and hard or something like that. So we're in the predictive side.
I completely agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like if your system is not truly predicting and learning by itself, it's not AI. It's just data analytics. And a lot of people dress up data analytics as a rank.
There are people who are using regression who are claiming that they have AI. No, that's not really it.
Yeah, because it doesn't learn by itself. So that's not AI. It's just simple modeling. Yeah, I agree. Doug, as you think through your career and your learnings and being a profit center, not a cost center, and ML can do things in 2/3 of a second. What other advice did you absorb from your mentors, and what advice did you reject?
What I accepted, I think, was a lot of learning about business, and by extension about people. That yes, the AI technology and all of the numbers and data and things like that may be very cool to me, but I've learned to try to put myself in the customer's place, and they don't care about data or AI or anything else. They are trying to raise their family and pay their mortgage and have enough money to grow their companies. And they care about, what is this going to do that makes my business better, faster, cheaper, whatever kind of thing. And so I've learned, and I have to pound this into my employees as well, put yourself in the customer's perspective and position things. Even the name of our company, Swarmalytics, well, we use a unique form of AI, which we're very proud that we're the only ones doing it. It doesn't matter to a customer. We just have this funny name from their perspective, and they want to know how I'm going to make them more money using this tool. They've heard that AI is a big deal, so they'll listen, because if everybody else is making money on it, they'd like to make some money on it too. But it's got to be in the perspective of, from the customer perspective, how's this going to help them?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, so it seems like you absorb the advice from mentors on being customer obsessed, on focusing on the customer lives, what they're really buying, not what you're selling, and eventually how what they're buying will not just make them cheaper, better, faster, but also protect them. from the downside? Couldn't agree more.
But
What
sometimes I had to learn by it being beaten into my head. Failure is a great learning tool. And when you make a presentation or something and it is not successful because you've been talking about sort of yourself, aren't I smart? I know about this and this, instead of what the customer wants, then you learn that way very quickly.
Agreed. What advice did you reject from your mentors?
Probably staying put in one place. Being in a comfortable corporate setting for 30 or 40 years. I didn't do that.
Yeah. Steering more.
No, I was at American Express at one point, and I'm sure there were wonderful career paths at American Express, but not what I was after.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been at a phase in your life where you felt like you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel?
That's actually a funny question. I can never see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Your story is about over. No, I do sit up at nights wondering, how am I going to overcome this problem, or this person is behaving in a way that isn't what I wanted. How do I navigate them in the right direction or whatever? I never see light at the end of the tunnel. Only looking backwards, I suppose. I remember the first time I had a successful exit, and I was at the bank, and the bank teller was shocked by how much money was in the bank account. And it's like, okay, that's a milestone. And I looked back on a fairly short period of time, 3 or 4 years had resulted in that success. So then I sort of saw the light in the tunnel, but only retrospectively.
So what advice do you have for others that are struggling right now, that might be on their first startup or their first job or first whatever, like brick wall, where they feel like, wow, like I don't know if I can get past this. Like, should I quit or keep going?
I'm not sure that I'm a good person to answer that. I tend to keep going sometimes when I should have cut it off shorter. In my 7 companies that I founded or co-founded, one of them was a failure. Took a whole bunch of my money and took all the money from my investors. And interestingly, it turned out that we were getting data that was basically fraudulent. One of our suppliers was giving us bad data. And you can't build good models on bad data. So I'd be hesitant to even try to answer that. There is so much to be learned. I'm still learning things every day after, let's see, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years or so. And there's still more to learn. Yesterday, I made a bad decision on some pricing. And later in the day, it's like, what a dope. I allowed a client to just sort of manipulate me and get a deal where heads they won and tails I lost. And so there's a lot to learn. There's business, there's people, and in our case, there's technology. All of them are very deep subjects.
Wow. Couldn't agree more. So now let's talk about Swarmalytics. What is your main focus area with Swarmalytics these days?
Our main focus is, first thing, sort of big picture, we are focused on using data to make better decisions in real estate. Real estate is too big a market for us to tackle. So we initially carved that down to new home construction in the United States. Even that is a $500 billion plus market. And to make things more challenging and give me some tough decisions to make, we're being pulled into some other adjoining markets. So new home construction is usually talking about one house, one family kind of thing. We are being pulled into the apartment building world. of where shall we build an apartment building, or how much should it sell for, or things like that. So that's our space. And fortunately, we have found lots of data. Here's the central theme. Artificial intelligence is about finding patterns in big data, not big data, enormous data. The more data, the better. And our particular technology loves big data. So we have about 16,000 pieces of information about every home in the United States. And we turn our algorithm loose, finding the patterns that might predict, for example, who is likely to move in the next 90 days. Real estate agents would love to know that. Or which homes are going to be repaired and resold, or which ones are going to be turned into rental units and such. So again, more data, the more data, the better. And that's where we're focused at this point. Again, real estate in the U.S. is $8 trillion business. So there's enough growth for the rest of my lifetime.
Yeah, indeed. And when you say 8 trillion, do you mean the total revenue for real estate, or the market cap for real estate companies, or do you are
is the sort of transaction value of all the buying and selling and repairing, and the exact definition of what's included in that, I should know, but it at least includes buying and selling of new and used homes.
fascinating? Yeah, that kind of makes sense. About 4 to 5 million homes are bought and sold every year with a median price of about 400,000. So that's about 2 trillion, and that's single family, like mostly residential homes. And if you add other more,
It would also include commercial real estate.
commercial real estate.
So someone building a shopping center or an office building or something would be included in there.
Makes sense. So now you mentioned you have a bunch of different use cases, right? Like real estate agents can use it to figure out like which homes are most likely to be sold next. Apartment or multifamily developers or real estate developers can use it to figure out where they should build. So can you walk us through the most common use case and the pain points that your customers face, and how Swarmalytics solves them better than others?
Yes, you touched upon one of them there. Builders obviously need land to build on. Right now, many of them hire individuals to go around basically knocking on doors. They look at their maps and, here's a farm and it's got 250 acres of land and it's near a metropolitan area or whatever. And then the person would go knock on doors and try to find the farmer if he's not out in the fields. And there's a long process. The process is such that often a representative of the builders will only find 10 potential deals a year, and they package it all up and they take it in front of a committee and make their case for why these 200 acres should be purchased. We have automated all of that using artificial intelligence, where we have scored every vacant property, vacant being like farms or just empty or whatever. If nobody's built on it yet, we have scored it as to its probability of being developed into a residential development. We've also scored it as to its probability of being turned into an apartment complex. And there we've taken, again, hundreds or thousands of factors. We have for basically every meter in the United States. We have the slope of the property. We have the foliage, the canopy, how many trees are on it. We have its proximity to water, and does it, get soggy in the springtime, and all sorts of factors. We have is near it, distance to a road. How about to electrical power, to sewer lines? That's a big one for builders. Sewers are very expensive, and you'd really like a sewer to be nearby so that you don't have to put one in yourself as a builder. Anyway, we take all that and we've scored all the properties, and our tool allows individual builder to get on and say, okay, it's got to be within 100 feet of a sewer. And of course, I want at least 500 feet of road frontage, and it's got to be within 2 miles of an interstate. And they put in their things, and to enhance or to specialize what the artificial intelligence has done when they said, hey, this looks like a good place to build.
Fascinating. That's one. So what was the builders basically getting an answer of potential patches of land they can then go and acquire?
They take hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of potential properties and quickly bring it down to maybe 10 or 20 that they send their team out to investigate. And we can bring more data to bear on it. For example, is the farm owned by someone who is 84 years old? That enters into the construction of a deal where perhaps the representative of the builder goes out and says, just chats with them and has a cup of coffee with the farmer. And I see you have 3 children. How would you like to give them each a check for $3 million tomorrow? And tell you what, we'll let you live on the farm for the rest of your life, recognizing that if the guy's 84, that's not a long time kind of thing, right? So anyway, we can bring more and more data to bear in order to sort it down to the best opportunities at the lowest cost for the contractor to buy 250 acres and put 100 homes on it or something.
Fascinating. And now, obviously, this sounds very, very compelling. Do you feel like this, or like, what do you feel differentiates Swarmalytics from 99% of the rest of the market?
Well, this is one of the fascinating things that has driven me to this market. There aren't many competitors to Swarmalytics yet, okay? Of the 2,600 builders in the United States, only the number 2 builder, as far as I've identified at this point, the number 2 builder, which is a company called Lennar, I think they're $20 billion a year or something. Anyway, they're a very large company. They have enough money and expertise and the ability to hire expertise that they have brought artificial intelligence to their business. However, to date, they have not shared that with anybody else other than bragging about how good it is. So they talk about the Lennar engine and how it's transforming their business and so forth. But if you're building 1,000 houses, you're a pretty good sized business, but you still don't have the expertise to hire artificial intelligence experts and build databases and all those things. So we have the market almost to ourselves right now, but it won't be for long because AI is going to proliferate into almost everything. And they're going to, if the number 1 builder, which is Horton, I believe, if the number 1 builder in the US hasn't started building a team, either shame on them or they probably haven't. They just aren't publicizing it and they're just improving their performance without patting themselves on the back.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Sounds like a perfect product for the perfect time in the market, especially now that we are in a supply constrained, zoning constrained environment. But like there is a massive need for supply, especially residential real estate supply in the US. Sounds like timing is really good. Are there any risks you feel of working with Swarmalytics?
From a client perspective, yes. To be very candid, there would be less risk if we were a 15-year-old company that had 150 people and major venture capital funding. We have bootstrapped the company. It has no substantial debt at this point, and it is slightly profitable. So that kind of small company is more likely to be bought up or, heaven forbid, go out of business or whatever. So there are risks dealing with that, but that's likely to be the case if you want to be at the cutting edge of something. They do a good job publicizing it, but very large companies tend not to be at the cutting edge. They're either gobbling up smaller companies that have new technologies or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, completely agreed. Completely agreed. Now, as you think about your scale that you achieved with Swarmalytics so far, what do you feel was the aha moment that led to scale?
Mm, the recognition that we needed to build a consortium. And let me explain that. 2,300 different builders, they each have their own little databases, the small ones on somebody on their laptops or whatever, but each have their data. And I can gather up vast amounts of data, but I don't know what's behind the front door in a house. I don't know what the flooring is made of. There's nothing in the tax records or anywhere else in public records that says, does this have beautiful natural walnut floors, which might add $20,000 to the value of the house or more? Or is it cheap laminate? The builder has that because they've bought the stuff and it's on their database. So the idea of the consortium is to get these little builders to pour their data in, sanitize it so one can't see the other's data. Okay, we've got to maintain privacy here. So you depersonalize it, but then you allowed the artificial intelligence to do things such that, just thinking of something. What is the concrete going to cost for the house that I'm going to start 6 months from now? And it's good. I will need X number of yards of concrete. Well, if you have data from many different builders, you can see geographic patterns in concrete costs. You can see time trends as far as how much inflation is hitting that, and all of these things. And you could then reach in and plug into your estimate a more accurate number for the concrete costs for the house. So that can only be achieved by the pooling of data. This is why the only other one doing AI is the second largest company. They build tens of thousands of houses and they don't need anybody else's data. They have from the concrete from their houses in Florida and Texas and California and so forth. And they have enough data to unleash the artificial intelligence to find the patterns and project their concrete costs more efficiently.
Great. I'd love to bring them onto the podcast as well. Do you know who's leading this at Lennar? Is it their CTO, Scott Spradley, or somebody else?
I do not know. Their CEO is the one that sort of tipped me off to it. Every time they have a public presentation to the stockholders, there is reference to the Lennar engine. And they usually have a couple of statistics as to they think that it increased sales by 1% or something, whatever. They try to quantify the value. I suspect they invested a fair amount of money in it. I would absolutely love to hear someone from Lennar speak to you about what they're doing. It's they have, from my perspective, they have broken the ice, but they are not in the business of selling artificial intelligence or the software. They're keeping it for themselves. This leaves the market to me at this point. The ice has been broken, and I do put in quotes from Lennar in our presentations all the time. See, people are using this to make more money. Back to these sort of fundamentals. And so they're my best friends, although we've never met.
We'll figure someday, trying to set that up, or at least we'll try. If you talk about Swarmalytics, like how do you monetize this? What's the monetization model?
We just changed that, and keeping it sort of simple, we need our pricing to vary with the size of the company. So a company that is building 50 houses a year cannot afford a lot on AI software. Again, they don't have the resources. and it's not going to be worth as much to them. Someone that's building 5,000 houses, this is worth a great deal of money. So we've got a interesting pricing algorithm, and that is how many houses did you build last year? And we can validate this by going into the legal records and seeing transactions from Lennar to this company to this buyer and so forth. So how many houses did you build last year times a very small amount per house? So if we're charging, let's say, $30 a house, that doesn't sound like much. Well, $30 a house, if you built 50 houses, then that's, $1,500. That's not a great deal to spend per month on AI. If you built 5,000, well, if you built 5,000, you're such a large company, I know they're going to want to negotiate a price with me anyway. So I can say 5,000 times 30 and so forth, and they're going to say, yeah, nice try, Doug. We'll give you this much.
Makes sense. And is that per month or per year?
The $30 example, that's not our exact price, but that is per month.
Per month. Got it. And so let's say, using $30 example, a company, let's say, build 1,000 homes a year, they're paying $30,000 a month. What exactly are they getting in $30,000 a month?
They're getting an ever-growing suite of tools. So in the $30,000 a month, okay, $360,000 a year. Well, a company that big probably has between 5 and 10 people searching for land. So we already talked about how this tool can vastly automate the land search. So instead of 15 people searching for land, maybe they can get by with 3 or something using this tool. 12 people, it's probably going to cost them $100,000 a piece for those people when you consider travel and lodging and all the rest of the stuff. So we've saved them $1.2 million, and we've charged them $360,000. So,
Yep.
and that would be just one of the tools. Another tool that I think is very compelling is one that helps them with the final pricing. A lot of builders use a cost plus way of pricing, which I was trained in economics. That's a terrible way to price. It means you don't charge enough in a hot market and you charge too much in a cold market and you sit on the house for months and months or years, kind of thing. So we bring all the data, including what interest rates are and how they've changed and what your competitors are doing and comps and things like that. We bring all of that data together to say, we believe the final sale price of this house will be $526,000. In the end, a person is going to make the decision, but this is reinforcing them that if you considered all this other information, that's the number. He may be under pressure for whatever reason, quarterly earnings statements or something, and he might say, I'll give it to you for 500 or something, but at least he knows what a mathematical target price would be.
Makes perfect sense. Now, for someone listening to this that absolutely loves, and wants to start working with Swarmalytics, what is the right way for them to engage with you and your team?
Basically, just reach out to us. It all usually starts with a demo and then sort of a customized demo where we're talking about their particular market and observations we've made. I have one client that for whatever reason in 2023, his revenue per square foot dropped remarkably. All of his competitors ticked up with the market, but he ticked down. And so if I can just quickly pull up information like that to establish credibility on our part that, hey, we have data and we understand that you're all about making money. And by the way, we did the math. And if you had followed the rest of your competitors up, you would have had $1 million more in revenue. Then it's like, oh, okay, this might be useful. And they're looking to charge what? Okay. And I might make this, and they warm to the idea. I also have great flexibility since we aren't a public corporation or anything. I can do deals. It's like, hey, would you like to try it for 30 days? I'll turn it on for 30 days and play around with it. If you find things that you'd like changed, not a big deal. We can make changes to the software in a week or two and get you a new copy, and you can, get to learn to love it.
Yeah, I love a trial. I'm obsessed with real estate data as well.
Good.
So
Uh,
yeah.
I'll be happy to set you up with one.
And for someone listening to this that doesn't know your website or your email, what is the right way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, it is www.swarmalytics.com. Swarmalytics is SWARM, like a swarm of bees. Swarmalytics, ALYTICS.com. And my phone number is in America 828-206-4062.
Yeah, just a side note that between you and us off the record, are you sure you want to publish your phone number? And we are happy to friend or
That's why I turned off my phone for this. I get many calls. My phone number is out there.
okay. Let's go back on the record. So Doug, for someone listening to this that absolutely loves what you're saying and they would love to work at Swarmalytics, how do you define the culture at your company?
Well, first thing, we are dispersed. We often are on multiple continents. I used to get the attention of candidates by saying, I absolutely insist you live somewhere in North or South America. And they'd be, oh, and I said, if you can afford Malibu Beach, have a nice time, go live on Malibu Beach. And therefore, I've got people all over. I've got them in, Texas up to New York and just scattered. One of them is going to live in the Far East for the next 6 months or something. So it is a self-driven. When you have someone in New York, he's got to motivate himself to get up and sit and do the coding or finish the project or whatever. And that's self-motivation is the key to success in my organization, where I only hire smart people. I'm good at it. After 40 years of hiring people, I hire people who are, with very few exceptions, I can count on 2 fingers, people who have been difficult to get along with. And I probably have hired 200 or 300 people in my career. So 2 out of 200 or 300 is pretty good. They are intellectually interested in, we can take this data and combine it and create something new and interesting. That's they like that.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And Doug, as you think about the history, what's the story behind naming the company Swarmalytics?
Again, this was when the bad side of me, aren't I proud of our technology side as opposed to the customer facing side. My evil side was in control when I was naming it. There's something called swarm intelligence. Okay. And that has to do with whether it's bees or flocks of birds or whatever, they communicate to each other and form a network, and the intelligence is in the network. So when you see these murmurings of birds where they all take a right and then a left and then fold into each other and think, it's wonderful to watch. It's because each bird is talking to 5 other birds, okay? And through the network itself has intelligence to avoid collisions and things like that. Anyway, I was fascinated with that. We have taken that technology and embedded it into our AI, where we do not try to predict things for the entire United States. We blow the United States into 56 segments, not geographic segments. and we build a model for each segment using hundreds or thousands of candidate models. So it was all about our technology, and I mildly regret it right now, but I'm still proud of leading in this particular technology of swarm intelligence for predictive analytics.
Absolutely love it. Swarm intelligence for predictive analytics in real estate to make key decisions on all your real estate needs. Is there anything else that listeners should know about Swarmalytics?
I'd just like to thank them for their patience listening to my story. If any of them happen to be investors, we have a seed round that is starting up. I think it's in a week or two, where we are raising some money. I don't believe the law in the United States allows me to say how much, but we are doing a seed round.
Okay, great, Doug. Now, as you think about your 2025 goals, what do you feel are the biggest bottlenecks you're facing in scaling your team or your operation?
Well, it gets back to I need to raise the money so we have enough marketing money to do a heavy marketing so that we get a lot of companies climbing into our consortium. A lot of companies will mean a lot of data that will feed the artificial intelligence, which will allow us to build new and wonderful products. And the whole thing, it's a momentum issue. I believe by the end of 2025, my goal is to have 55 of the 2,600 to be members of the consortium. So
We absolutely love that. And as you think about the real estate transaction industry and the role of data in that, what's your ultimate vision for the future of the real estate?
I think it's great. So there's a line, I think it's from, what was it? Anyway, it's going to be wonderful. I believe housing will become more plentiful, cheaper, nicer. There is no reason that we can't take the gathering of information to another step. Imagine a world where you're gathering data by collecting every step of a home construction. I'm sure there are 10 or maybe 50,000 different little tiny steps from knocking in this nail to putting this faucet on and so forth. What if data was gathered on all of that and AIs found sort of modules could be built faster in an automated fashion where the kitchen simply arrives on a flatbed truck, and instead of the kitchen taking 3 or 5 days or something it just slides in there and so forth. Less labor, better use of materials, perhaps better materials. One of the conversations I'm having right now is with an insurance company. Why not build a house so that it is so sturdy that we just, here in the Asheville area, we just had a horrible hurricane, hundreds of people killed. Why not build houses that can withstand hurricanes? It's doable. And if you had every step of the process and costs associated with the insulation, there is insulation you can put in a house that is completely fireproof. What if the AI brought that all together and made houses that can't be destroyed more cheaply, more efficiently, that last longer, with less maintenance, something like that? I think it's going to be great.
Amazing. I absolutely love it. Doug, as you look at the housing market right now and home prices and where they are, how do you feel about, the housing market and, where effects are?
It is not good right now. It is, even though interest rates in the United States dropped briefly, they seem to have gone back up again. And unless you do the math, you don't really recognize how price sensitive a house is or buyers are to changes in interest rates. I went through this process with my team and I said, okay, and I took an example of a house and I said, okay, you bought that house 4 years ago. or so. What was the interest rate? And it was like 3%. Okay, your same house today, the interest rate is 7%. What is the difference in the payments and the total price of the house? And it's enormous. So the housing market is being very badly depressed by interest rates, and also the interest rate, the inflation on materials. I'm not sure if we still have it. The United States had a big tariff against Canadian pine lumber, which is what most houses are framed with, and so that was driving up prices as well. So it's not good right now. But I'm an optimist at heart. You have to be an entrepreneur, otherwise kill yourself or something. I'm an optimist, so I think that things will get better, and people will be able to afford houses at less than $450,000.
Fascinating.
I bought my first house a long time ago. Let's face it. I bought my first house at $120,000, and it was on 6.5 acres of land within commuting distance of Boston. So it is possible to have homes that are less expensive. Sort of some macroeconomics get in the way.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Doug, I'd love to ask you some rapid fire questions. What do you feel you know about the real estate industry that might surprise most listeners?
I know less about the real estate industry than I'd like. I'm learning all the time. Again, the fact that many builders are much better at building than they are at business. So I'm shocked and disappointed at the poor marketing that many of them do.
Wow. Yeah, builders are way better at building than business. I love that. I'm gonna use that. Now, Doug, say a family office calls you and they've had a liquidity event and they've invested in a bunch of asset classes, but now they want to invest in real estate as an asset class. Let's use a round number like 100 million that they'd like to invest in real estate as an asset class. How would you advise them?
I believe, since the family office probably are not experts in buying and selling of apartment buildings and so forth, I think I'd tell them to keep it simple. I'd recommend that they buy land, raw land that perhaps my land discovery tool has said looks very likely to be developed. I remember a piece of property outside of Austin, Texas, that has doubled in price in 3 or 4 years. Anyway, raw land is a good thing, especially if it's got a high probability of development.
Makes sense. What is the best financial advice you've ever received?
I think probably to become an entrepreneur. Again, it is not for timid people or for risk-averse people, but it is possible to make more money as an entrepreneur than pretty much anything else. You can also lose all your money. I once had one more house than I have now. That didn't work out well. But yes, that would be my answer.
I've heard a lot. Yeah, being an entrepreneur can work out if it really works out, but it is a double-edged. What organization or institution, Doug, would you fix if you had the time to fix it?
What organization would I fix? Let me put aside the entire world of politics. That all needs some fixing. I think organization. I think I'd fix my own. That's the organization I'd like to fix. We're not as successful as I'd like yet, which is what gets me up in the morning. That okay, I'm going to take another swing at it. I'd really like to get my organization tight and bigger and much more successful and so forth. My goal coming out of graduate school was always that I would simply like to be a successful businessman. And by some measures, I guess I have been. but you have to keep proving it to yourself.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. And 45 years later, you're still obsessed with that goal. There's something to be said about your focus and resilience.
I think the key word that you just used is obsessed.
Mm, mm,
Yes, yes, you have to be a little bit of obsessed.
you have to be. Last question, Doug. You have a large family. If they agreed to be mentored by you,
Yeah.
what's the number one skill you would teach?
Well, yeah, you just mentioned something sort of close to my heart. I have had the pleasure of working with each of my 3 children in one of my companies during my career, and to watch your own child bloom and just, do things you'd never imagined that they could ever do. Has been the most gratifying thing of my entire career. So, if I have nothing against hiring of relatives. Recognize that it carries a special bunch of problems with it and so forth. Little things like my children starting to call me Doug instead of Dad, and things like that. But in any case, that's been the best part of my whole career. Is I still work with one of my children, and it's great. Best part of it all.
What's the number one skill you would teach them?
I have taught them just basic ways of looking at data and so forth. The number one skill being they have to earn a living. And with what is going on in the world as far as the proliferation of artificial intelligence and big data and all those things, knowing how to analyze data will be for their lifetimes a marketable skill. So for each of them, I've taught them how to build models using artificial intelligence and things like that. And that has, I think that will carry them well once I'm gone.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah, focus on earning your own living. That was Doug Newell. He's an accomplished serial entrepreneur who's launched over 7 companies, boasts bunch of wins, a bunch of ventures ongoing, and loss every once in a while as well. With over 45 years in experience, he's a wolf. He never knows where the next meal is, but he knows that he's alive and hunting, and that's what matters the most at the end of the day. Right now, he's laser focused on helping you use real estate data to make better investment decisions as well as better pricing decisions. If you're a home builder interested in this, definitely check out swarmalytics.com, or you can give Doug a call. We'll add his phone number in the bio. This is Nick Shah. If you ever want to talk about real estate, shoot me a note on CEO@home.llc. Thank you, everyone.